Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another direct-to-YouTube special. This one funded by Hen D. I believe I got that name right. Apologies if I didn't. My website went down for a little while, and I'm recording this while it's still down. And they donated to see a Mono Green Vial deck in action. So this deck, and I adjusted the original deck list a bit. This deck is kind of built around utility. Other than 4x Noble Hierarch, there aren't 4 of any other creatures in this deck, and the idea is instead that between Green Sun Zenith and Once Upon a Time, you just have the ability to find a whole bunch of creatures, and you can always just find the right sort of card. Opponent's on a bunch of counterspells? Uncounterable Fatty. Need to grind? Tireless Tracker. Need to remove some stuff? Maybe a Master of the Wild Hunt. Need a little life? Obstinate Baloth. Need some spiders in your life? Like a lot of spiders? Then Arasta is what you're looking for. And the overall idea here is really quite interesting. The mana base is kind of built like the mana base from Death and Taxes in that like we're a 4x for Schadenport and Wasteland deck. And then there's some oddities here. You have a Dryad Arbor because of Green Sun Zenith, which allows you to do something sort of interesting. So you can, I believe, put in a Dryad Arbor off of Ether Vial as a way of ramping. So we'll see if we can get that to happen. And we also have a Gaia's Cradle because we are playing a whopping 25 creatures in this deck. There's a decent number of cards here you might have to read. To highlight a couple of them real quick, we have a Manglehorde, which is a Reclamation Sage alternative. We have a Thrashing Brontodon, which has a big butt and is a disenchant on a stick. And otherwise, we have maybe a Fauna Shaman as another way to sort of work through some of the, I don't want to call them bad creatures, but the creatures that aren't right for the situation that you're in. The sideboard, as I built it, is relatively pointed. It wants to improve you against very specific things. The first 6 cards here are just extra removal spells of the sort, because we're not playing something like Swords to Plowshares in game 1. Then we have a handful of things that can be good against, like, combo decks, Uro decks, and generic blue decks. I'm not sure if Choke is actually just better than Carpet of Flowers, but, I figured this deck had Choke in it to start with. I might as well go ahead and leave it in and see how it performs. I did add 1 white card to the deck. I added a Gaddock Teague in the sideboard. Just being honest here, I don't think this deck beats combo, and I don't think adjusting the sideboard will help it beat combo either. Like, I think if you show up playing this deck, like, you are expecting to, like, maybe clown on some fair, slow-ish decks, but, like, when someone goes Dark Ritual, you go, oh, shit. And you probably just die. I added a Collector Oof to the main deck as a way to maybe steal some Game 1s versus combo decks. And I know that's a non-bow with my own Ether Vial, but I think that's a price that I'm willing to pay to have that utility. And I figure the Gaddock Teague in the sideboard can help shut off some of the Tendrils of Agony style win conditions. It's not a perfect fix, but if I don't want to say, like, I'm just going to try to dodge combo, I think I need, like, 7-ish cards for combo in the sideboard to even have a reasonable chance, since there's so much do-nothing against combo in the deck for game 1. But overall, I think this deck should be a whole lot of fun if you're fans of, like, Maverick-y sort of games or Death and Taxes style games. This will probably be fun for you. Anyway, throw me a like before this video gets started if you're into Legacy content, and if you're really liking, hit that little bell and subscribe. There's a lot of Legacy content coming your way this summer. Alright, keeping sort of a weird hand here. We have, like, the Collector of Ether Vial combo. I think I need to take the green source in case this Ether Vial doesn't resolve. But it's sort of a weird hand. I could be playing against a Death Shadow Delver deck here. Be playing against Doomsday as well. Hand's kind of awkward. Like, I don't want to take unnecessary life damage on 1. off of Horizon Canopy, but I also don't want to show Wasteland early because then my opponent can fetch basics, but, you know, c'est la vie. Ooh. Oh, just straight up reanimate a Street Wraith. Okay. I think I ignore the existence of this Collector Oof, and I just work towards a Questing Beast killing my opponent. I don't think a 3/4 just outpaces all the random bullshit creatures that are in my deck. Great now? I think I'm happy enough with the trade. I should have technically done this maybe in their second main phase because of floating mana for Dismember specifically. Just micro misplay on my end. Awkward set of lands here. Depending on what my opponent does, like there's some worlds where I violin a Collector Oof and just like trade it for 3 life here. I think I'll do that. I'm unlikely to want to play it out later. Horizon Canopy's feeling a little awkward. This can't be countered, but my opponent could do something like Fatal Push and then Daze. Nope. Definitely a weird looking game, though. Okay. That's fine. Game's kind of unexciting. See if this prompts my opponent to any action. they just bounce the vial. Slightly annoying for me. I'm happy enough with this draw. Now this can be countered, whereas many of my other things can't. So I'm not surprised to see that happen. I think I go ahead and port this down. There's a lot of bad things that could happen if my opponent has that mana in main phase. And even just them, like, playing a Brazen Borrower later is kind of annoying. Well, it ain't much, but it's honest work. Kind of flooded out pretty bad. So, like, there's 3 lands in my graveyard. Oh, please fetch. Yes. Uncounterable Questing Beast. This could be a very large Death Shadow, though, which would be a nuisance. The Gurmag Angler instead. That's unfortunate. So I can force a trade with Gurmag Angler by attacking with Questing Beast, because my opponent doesn't block it, they die. Or I could play like Tireless Tracker plus land. Double Horizon Canopy is really bad for me here. I could also just like play towards my opponent, not playing around Questing Beast. Like, I can kill Gurmag Angler and, like, go to 1 after the Street Wraith hits me, and I think my opponent comes out ahead there, because I'll have these Horizon Canopies that are dead. I think it's going to be better for me to just play a Tracker and a land. Then hope that I can kill with Questing Beast next turn. That gets easier if I draw a non-pain land. I'll have to jump Gurmag Angler, and I'll probably do so with Tireless Tracker. I don't know. There's reasons for both. Like, this keeps Questing Beast uncounterable, but this presents 2 distinct lethal threats. I think I need 2 distinct lethal threats here. Because if I go Allosaurus Shepherd and Questing Beast can... Street Wraith can block Questing Beast, and then my opponent takes 1. Yeah. There's a number of things that'll beat me here. See if my opponent has something. That's bad timing for that, but it doesn't matter because I'm dead to it. Yeah, I mean, we drew too much air. And the double Horizon Canopy is horrible. Like, those sorts of situations are, like, why I don't play that card in Death and Taxes most of the time. Alright, the cards over here are the sorts of things that I can board in. Alright. Oof is bad. These are bad. Up at the top end of the curve is okay. Fauna Shaman seems slow. I think of Elvish Reclaimer. I don't think I'm looking to wasteland my opponent into Oblivion here. I could probably board that out. Against counter magic, I can probably trim on Once Upon a Times a bit. Or maybe if I'm just boarding in a bunch of non-creature spells like Choke, I just don't want those. Would be me boarding down to 20 creatures. That's a little low. Like, that's the absolute bottom side of acceptable. Well, multiple Brazen Borrowers and Delvers are probably in there. They don't have to be in there, but they're probably in there. Oh, wait, hold on. I am trying to math, and this is just 60 in the first place. That's fine. Oh, Hex Drinker. Did I accidentally board Hex Drinker out? I want Hex Drinker. Hex Drinker's awesome. Oh, yeah, that was supposed to be Reclaimer. Okay, that makes more sense. This has no mana. This hand is not good. I'll be keeping it because I'm already on 6. But this hand does not have a real plan. The plan for this hand is Hope Choke resolves and that it beats my opponent single-handedly. Like, that's what I've got going for me currently. I could see some people pitching Aether Vial with this hand that I kept. I didn't want to do that because I wanted to play something on turn 1 that my opponent was likely to Force of Will or Force of Negation, so that I could get a 2-for-1 out of what otherwise might have been a weak card. Can't just F6 through my turns. There are cards like Scrub Ranger in this deck, and I don't want to just telegraph them when I do actually have them. I think I play this next turn with a land, or Garuk next turn. Let's just jam this. If this eats the counterspell, I'm good with that here. My opponent already has the Delver on board, so I don't think... Oh. Neat. I mean, my opponent can just bounce this for 2 mana. but they had 2 mana and they didn't do that. There is that black kill spell that kills an artifact. Is it an artifact, enchantment, or a creature? No, it's I think an enchantment or creature. Feed the swarm. That could be what they have. Sure. Oak would have gotten dazed last turn. I'm gonna go ahead and play Garruk Relentless. I don't know, maybe there's an argument to play Tireless Tracker now and then start pressuring this Liliana. I can use Clip Wings to answer Delver. Nah, let's go ahead and play the Garruk Relentless now. Downside of Garruk Relentless is that it can get Force of Negation. But if I play the Garruk Relentless now, it flips and like takes 1 damage, and then I can start making a bunch of wolves, and my opponent like uses Lily Plus on those wolves rather than actually dealing with my stuff. Like, I'll play Tireless Tracker, that's the thing that's going to kill Lily, and Lily will be focused not on doing this, but on dealing with a 1/1 token. My removal spell does not kill that, unfortunately. This is pretty sick, though. Yeah, I mean, let's jam. My opponent's mana is so limited here, they're probably going to have few or no options. Oh, Snuff Out's a good one. I could actually lose to Snuff Out. Really? Me? Oh, I see. Awkward turn is awkward, but I guess that's fine. I think I'm still supposed to plus here. So Lily will plus on this wolf. Death Shadow will attack in. I'll probably jump with Dryad Arbor. That's super inconvenient. How many Watery Graves does my opponent deck play? The answer is 3. I think I'm going to die here, but I think if I jump block, I am not going to win this game. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this one go. Like, if they have another Watery Grave, so be it. But they didn't fetch last turn. Okay, they do have it. That's fine. I accept that. But I need to pressure that Liliana, or that is just going to beat me in a different way. Yeah, so like, if for my turn, I just play Obstinate Baloth, I gain some life, I make another wolf, the Lily ultimates, and then I'm just not going to beat that. I am good with my decision. Okay, this hand's a little weird. I think I green sun. Oh no, the Dryad Arbor is in my hand. JK. That make this hand unkeepable. Turn 1 Dryad Arbor. Yeah, I think that makes his hand unkeepable. I like this one better. Let's throw back the Manglehorn. Alright, so essentially, Noble Hierarch is free. This guy is Cradle. Guess I can also play Scrib Ranger, right? 2 mana, Scrib Ranger, bounce a forest, untap Noble Hierarch, and then I also have 4 mana. Do I want to bounce this forest? I kind of want to use this forest for Rishadan Port in future turns. Oh, right. Summoning Sickness. Sorry, I was counting that Noble Hierarch as mana. 3 mana this turn. An awkward amount. Alright, I'm just going to hold up Scrib Ranger and attack with Noble Hierarch then. While I still have 2 creatures, I will play Scrib Ranger. And that resolves. If at some point in this game I get Terminus, it's going to be devastating, because I really need the mana from my Gaia's Cradle to cast this Questing Beast. And that could be it. That could be setting up a Terminus. I don't know that I get to play around it with the power level of the deck that I have, just being honest. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't like Rishadan Port as well. Okay. I guess I could have. I was willing to bounce the forest. Good. This probably means that the Terminus is not in my immediate future. My opponent is responding to this. Alright, might force pitching a Snapcaster Mage. I'm running on fumes here. I think even just like a Source of Plowshares or something going to be enough to undo me. Yep. This takes out something that's pro-blue as well, while also like decreasing the amount of mana that I have. Not great. Not abysmal, but not great. I will trade Noble Hierarch for Snapcaster Mage. It's more Scavenging Ooze food. So this is the AK clone, right? Oh no. I have to like think about what of all of these green creatures I actually want. X Drinker's cool, Allosaurus Shepherd is cool, Fireless Tracker, Arasta, Shifting Ceratops. So I can do this for X equals 3. Fireless Tracker with no value this turn is... I can just E-Wit Questing Beast back. I don't hate that. And I think I do this pre-combat. I think I just don't want to lose this mid-combat to another Swords of Plowshares. Alright, we got a Jace out of that deal. So that's nice. But I kind of think that my opponent's frantic inventories and other sources of card advantage are just going to put them way ahead as this game goes long. Second verse, same as the first. Maybe I get back another Green Sun, because if I lose creatures to Terminus or Supreme Verdict, I can't actually cast Questing Beast. Nah, the haste is so good against Planeswalkers. Gonna take that. I don't think I've ever clicked no to Eternal Witness's ability. Alright. Did not get got by like just a Snapcaster Mage. I do not believe that I will cast Questing Beast on my turn if my opponent has 2 mana up, because Brainstorm into Terminus is devastating. Yeah, I think I'm just going to play more conservatively here. Eat some stuff from the graveyard this turn. Port my opponent. My opponent Snapcaster Mage. And I think that's all the creatures in graveyard. Yep. Yep. Swamp, huh? Destroy target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. So I believe I can just fizzle that by eating a card from my own graveyard. Nice. And now I'll port my opponent and leave up the ability to eat a Snapcaster target. Predict, target me. Sure. They have named Thalia. Fair. I stole that game somehow. Opponent has a lot of card advantage with Frantic Inventory and Predict in their deck. I think I like these cards. A lot of cards. I think I like them. I wonder if this is an Ether Vial out matchup. And I say that specifically because, not because I don't think Vial is good, because it's totally fine against what is probably a counterspell heavy deck. But I think my opponent is going to be able to outgrind me, and I'm not sure that I can afford giving up a card to Vial. I think I want to get rid of this. Collector Oof is just a 2/2. That can probably go. I can probably just trim Once Upon a Times from there. Leaves me with 24 creatures. I could think about something like Thorn or Jete, but one Once Upon a Time might be totally reasonable. I'm just worried about like misses now because I'm boarding in like a bunch of Chokes, Relics, and Planeswalkers. Oof, Relic combo. Jete's Jete's a lot of mana. Maybe I'll keep the lucky misers Once Upon a Time. This is a fine hand where my Dryad Arbor is going to get removed and I'll be a little sad. We're drawing the Singleton Gaia's Cradle a lot. I don't really want that early in the game. Maybe I should have even considered boarding this out over a Once Upon a Time. Although I probably want all of my lands if I'm going to board out Vials. There's a world where this is just a Hex Drinker next turn. But I think this Green Sun trades for a Swords to Plowshares most of the time. And so I'd rather trade for it on turn 1 than on turn 2. That way, like, if this gets removed, I can just play out a Scavenging Ooze. An Army of Wolves seems solid. Yeah, I think I just think I just battle here. I think that's better than eating one card out of my opponent's graveyard randomly. My opponent shuffled off that second ponder, so I don't need to worry about a Terminus just chilling on top. I don't exactly love my board position, but I don't hate it either. Sure, Teferi can bounce ThrabenU, and then I'll kill it with Dryad Arbor. I'm good with that. Oh, they just plussed. Sure. Well, you have a counterspell? Nope. Send all of this at Teferi. This keeps my opponent from bouncing something in this turn cycle. We'll see. My opponent can just Supreme Verdict me this turn. That would be pretty good from their end. I'll be sending everything at Teferi. I'll be activating my Planeswalker post-combat. Get this now. My opponent can do stuff with weird timing. I think I just get this now. Sure. Fine. I don't have a lot to do this turn now. I played this, so I can't cycle Horizon Canopy this turn, so let's just make Snapcaster worse in the future. Much worse. My Wasteland, though, it can stay. I do need like something to funnel mana into. Sure. Dueling Planeswalkers. Objectively speaking, my opponent's Planeswalker is a little bit stronger than mine. But mine pressures their Planeswalker. I can, well, we both can get a card worth of value every turn. This is going to be a slog, though, probably. Okay, another land is not what I'm looking for. I guess I'll cycle this Horizon Canopy. What is the exact wording of this? Yeah. Alright, I need some business. I can still just be in another situation where I'm just like a Terminus or a Supreme Verdict away from being in kind of a rough position. My opponent needs to do something about my Planeswalker first before that's really the case, but I expect that that deck has Council's Judgment, and there's some black in there too, so there's a couple other options available to them. Don't expect that this kills Jace, but we'll try. Straight up blocking, that's fine. We came out ahead in that interaction. I don't think I'm supposed to flip this. I also don't think I'm supposed to play Manglehorn out. I want a creature Host Sweeper, and if I can just keep committing wolves to the board, that's better in case of Terminus. Exhibit A, Terminus. Yeah, this is the sort of thing I was talking about. Oh, baby. Hasty Shifting Ceratops, though, is really strong. This is uncounterable. And I control one creature, so I can give it haste. And just, like, go to town on that Jace. That Jace did a lot of damage to me. The Fracture did the most. But, like, the Jace found the Fracture, so, you know. Cling to Dust. Yeah, my opponent wants to settle in for extremely long games. The Flood is real. Maybe Choke's not good enough against this opponent. Like, they control Plains, Swamp right now. I don't know. I did nuke one Tundra already. I just have so few cards that grind just because of the singleton nature of the way this deck is built. We're playing a meme list, and we know that, so that's okay. Alright. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lands to 3 spells. No, it's not to 3 spells. 11 lands to 5 spells, because 2 things are in exile. Still a rough ratio. But, like, I feel correct for boarding out the vials. Maybe, like, Once Upon a Time is better than something like a Noble Hierarch. Noble Hierarch for turn 2 choke is kind of nice. I'm fine with just immediately exchanging this for a card. Gets 13 cards out of my opponent's graveyard, including a relevant Cling to Dust. Alright. I still think I'm going after this swamp. But there are going to be some situations where my opponent decides to cast a Cling to Dust in response. I would like the graveyard. I'm not given the graveyard. I will not play out this last land because of Tireless Tracker. It's possible it's better to port the fetch this turn and make my opponent's future cantrips worse. But if I'm wrong and they have like some black planeswalker that hits play main phase, or this is a bad example, but some sort of black threat like a Gurmag Angler, that would be devastating. But like a Sedgemoor Witch, that would be a better example. My opponent's pretty far ahead. But like I have no idea how much stuff they actually have. Like I don't know if they're hemorrhaging counters just because they have a ton. No, you can I'll split it across phases. Opponent might just cling to dust here anyway. Am I questing Beast in Exile yet? No. I'll take out planes, maybe. Oh, you know what? Let's. No, they'll just let the fetch get tapped. They won't fetch in response. Let's take out planes. I guess there's an argument to take Island because that would make my choke better. Go little Elvish Reclaimer. My opponent has 7 cards. I kind of just want to concede. I think I am unlikely to come back from this card deficit. Plus, this is probably just like not entertaining at all. I think if I miss on another draw step, I'm good with just calling it. Like, my opponent is very much at the point where they have a billion mana and a billion cards, and I have nothing. Okay. Alright, and the Swords of Plowshares. Alright, I have floated out badly enough that I'm okay with calling this here. I would play this out if it was like a real tournament that matters, but no. All right, do I want Once Upon a Time over something else here? My deck's so slow, and like I have so many 4-drops. Accelerating towards them is really nice. I guess like Manglehorn is a really bad body. That's a change that makes sense. I think I'll keep the rest. I could board down a land. Like Wasteland is not particularly great versus my opponent. I don't know. I have so many 4-drops in this deck, I probably can't board down the land, despite the fact that I flooded like mad in that game. Yep. I think I keep this. The potential is huge. And if I get stuck for a little while, that's not the end of the world. But like, I have stuff to make my cards uncounterable, and I have Relic of Progenitus early. I think that's a good combination. That was a shuffle off the ponder. But the potential to have the uncounterable choke is just awesome. But we could also just have one of those games where I never find the third land and I die. I guess like Relic plus Tarmogoyf is also a little awkward. Mm, that smells like a Terminus that beats me. Like my opponent didn't crack the fetch there. Not gonna play another creature out then. Gonna crash in for 2. Okay. Not a Terminus that beats me. Oh, hold on. Terminus that beats me in just a second. If I do get Terminus, I might have to crack Relic of Progenitus to try to make my next land drop. Yeah. Unfortunate. Undo this stop. Urborg. That's interesting. That implies that they have black cards. All right, now I have to click through the Urborg shenanigans. A little surprised that got forced. I don't consider Fauna Shaman a particularly good card here. But my opponent could just be playing a Planeswalker this turn or something, and they want the board clear. Alright. I will just keep playing cards. Alright, they have a Cling to Dust in the graveyard now, but not really the ability to use it. Seems like they're pushing their own graveyard kind of hard with, like, Frantic Inventory, Cling, and Snapcaster. Resolve the choke. I just resolve the choke. Try to resolve the choke, rather. Just so greatly limits my opponent's options if they don't have a pitch counter here. Cling to Dust and Tarmogoyf Size is gonna be weird. Timeout is starting to be one of the primary ways that I could win this. I think I'm just gonna run that back. Like, I want to pressure these Planeswalkers, but resolving this is so nice. Especially if it, like, ends up permanently eating the Teferi. Yeah, this may be a game where if I didn't concede the previous game, I end up winning on time. We'll see. I cannot double spell this turn. I don't think I want to get rid of my Wasteland. I'm gonna cast this. Oh my gosh. Hate you, Urborg. But I'm not just gonna Wasteland you to make my clicking easier. I don't hate you that much. Alright. Joke number 2 is gone. I do have a spider. Excuse me? So my opponent cast Doomsday. It lagged a bit, which is why you didn't see this. My opponent cast Doomsday, brainstormed with Jace, and then played Thassa's Oracle, and I died. Yeah, so apparently I should have played out the last game, because this was my opponent's win condition, and I just did not know it. Huh. I'm going to be keeping this hand here. We have a reasonable vial curve of Hierarch Courser. And then I have Once Upon a Time, which is probably just gonna find me a land? I don't know. It depends. Sure. Alright, my opponent has found a Bayou. That's fine. Maybe Jund? Armagoyf and Port are both totally reasonable here. Like, I could Wasteland my opponent, play Vial next turn, and then Port my opponent. Or I could just take some fat. I think I like taking the Port. And after my opponent's mulligan, I do just want to trade 1 for 1 here. Awkwardly, I kind of think that playing Noble Hierarch out might be better than playing Vial out. I don't know, YouTube. I don't know, man. Like, for a second, I thought I was gonna get belched or something. Ah, okay. That makes some amount of sense. And we're not casting Faithless Looting? Makes less sense. Like, don't they know about my Rishadan port? So now I port them off of this? Would have gotten the Kroxa into the graveyard. I think I let them take the Noble Hierarch if they want to take the Noble Hierarch. The Courser is more valuable to me. Opponent agrees. I think this is going to be another one of those games where I just kind of like flood out and have nothing to do with my mana. Enjoy the podcast, by the way. Thanks. For the YouTube folks, I am on the Eternal Glory podcast. We released a really good episode this week, or I guess last week for you, about your mental game and avoiding tilt and processing emotions, things like that. I'm gonna let my opponent cast Faithless Looting. But there's some lines that involve cracking this clue now so that I can vial something in that are pretty sick. Not rewarded. That's fine. I'm unsure of what I think of opponent's deck currently. Like, every deck that I have played with Croxa in it has been uh, awful. Are there Phoenixes in there too? There's Phoenixes in there. I could maybe like this. And notably, this sucker does have Menace, so I cannot block this. Why is it like showing up that I can try to block it? I don't know. Or wait, Menace is the one that can't be blocked by, unless I have 2 or more creatures, right? I'm like second guessing myself right now. All right, Menace, MTG, can't be blocked except for 2 or more creatures, right? Yep. Okay. No idea why Moto is showing me the ability to block, but you know, I think I do tick this up. That's a cool thing to be able to vial in. I think I'll go ahead and play my land. Be a detective. A little investigating. Yeah, I can just file this in mid-combat. No real point of just crashing in right now. We can overpay with Gaia's Cradle significantly. If my opponent has a removal spell that can kill my Tireless Tracker. Yes, I will use this ability. Put in Thrashing Brontodon. I think I'm just supposed to block this with Thrashing Brontodon and Noble Hierarch, rather than with these 2. Maybe it's fine to block with those 2. I don't really want to lose this to a removal spell of some kind, but taking the Witch off the table is kind of big game. I guess both my creatures have 4 toughness, which is kind of a magical number. Alright, Witherbloom Apprentice. Alright, so my opponent is presumably playing Chain of Smog combo in their deck then. Well, I think I'm doing this. This is really free. I'll go ahead and tap this here. Rack my clue. A Scrib Arranger. I'll play it while it's free. Scrib Ranger plus Tireless Tracker, by the way, super cute combo. Now I want to be attacking my opponent's mana, specifically their black mana. Want to keep them off any black mana if possible, because of Chain of Smog just ending this game. Thrashing Brontodon it is. All right. I don't really interact with my opponent's combo super well. Jitai's okay. I think I played Jitai and Group Relentless. I don't know. Maybe Thorn is fine. Like, my mana denial elements can be strong. Alright, what's bad? I don't need the Manglehorn and the Collector Oof here. Don't really need a 1/1 here. I probably trim Once Upon a Times if I'm bringing in Thorns. Also trim a land. Garruk Relentless plus Thorn, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. But like, this is a removal spell. It just kills stuff. And that is something that I value here. This is sort of weird. I don't think I'm supposed to board the relics for Kroxa. Like, if it's just Kroxa, I don't really care that much. Land Vial, tap Vial, put in Dryad Arbor. Port opponent starting turn 2. Maybe this hand is fine. It's cute. I like cute. Like, mana denial was good against my opponent last game, so I'd like to think that it will be good against them again. Yep. Alright, there are Arclight Phoenixes in there too. Maybe the relic should have come in. Get in there, bud. I believe I go after this land with Rishadan and more other Rishadan. Nice. That means I can also just attack for 1 this turn. Green Sunning for X equals 2 I don't think is better than porting. Yeah, that's not better than porting. Like, Scavenging Ooze is cool, but tapping out for Scavenging Ooze is not cool. Not cool enough, rather. This is a strange deck that I'm playing. My opponent's deck is maybe not equally strange, but definitely spicy. Destroy target artifact. That's fine. I have gotten an extra land drop plus 1 mana out of this. That's an okay situation. Dark Ritual and Thoughtseize hit the bin from my opponent. Wasteland and Port and attack for 3. Or, sorry, attack with 2 creatures. Reasonable. We'll be going after both black sources. I'll hit Bayou first. My Green Sun is a little slow here, but my Mana Denial is hopefully doing some work. It feels like it's doing work. I haven't completely wiped out the opponent's mana yet. They just play out a Witherbloom Apprentice, it becomes a little scary for me, yeah. Yeah, I don't really have something to tutor up that is just like objectively good against the combo. I think I just need to double port my opponent and just keep making land drops. Keep them off of Chain of Smog. And eventually I can like Elvish Reclaimer or a Wasteland, permanently take out one of these black sources. I don't know how many actual black sources my opponent's deck has. Right, they got a Bloodstained Mire. Oh, that's a third black source. Alright. See if I die this turn. They just have, like, Chain of Smog. They'll beat me here. If they don't, we can talk. Starting to run into a little moto lag here. I have it. Like a no. And that means I can Green Sun for some amount this turn safely. Alright, so if I want to port twice, I can Green Sun for X equals 2 and get like a Scavenging Ooze. The reason to port twice is my opponent very well could have a Sedgemoor Witch in their hand that I've just gotten stuck there. I could also just grab something like a Rasta. That also gives me sort of a Sedgemoor Witch ability. And my spiders will probably end up being better than their Witherbloom Apprentice. I also just grab Questing Beast, which can't be blocked by those tokens. I don't hate that. I could go 4/5 mana Questing Beast, crash in for 5, leave up Caracas to protect it from a removal spell. I don't know that I need to do that. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Teleport once. I don't hate it. Because my opponent has like top decks that just beat me outright, I probably should try to end this game now. There's a lot of power. It has vigilance as well, stopping some other attacks on the ground. I'm good with this. Okay. Sure. Arclight Phoenixes are a little annoying here. Didn't need to cast that land grant, right? Dark Ritual, Faithless Looting, Thoughtseize already did it. Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste, no reach here. So I am dead to 6 in the air. Alright. Outs to that. Nope, I don't think so. Go ahead and concede here. Alright, did a quick reboot to try to get some of the lag away. I think I want Relic when I'm on the play. I think that makes a decent amount of sense. Hold on, did it completely redo my sideboarding? Thought that was a game too. It undid my sideboarding. Alright, so I want Relic, Jete, and I think Garruk. I don't know. Thorn also does stuff. Oh, great. 40 seconds. Thank you, Magic Online. Very cool. Alright, so I don't play 2 of these sideboard cards of some nature. I have 22 creatures. I could also just trim some vials. That's not crazy either. I would think about this more, but I just simply do not have the time. Awkward. Keep. It's like, this is very bad against some things that deck can do and very good against others. Alright. This is the best hand so far. You go away, and I think you go away. I think this is just like Dryad Arbor potentially into Tracker and then double Wasteland in a single turn. My opponent is also going to 5. That might help. A Thoughtseize on turn 1 will devastate me, though. Alright. Land Green Sun. Dryad Arbor. That was the literal perfect counter to my hand. A basic land into Thoughtseize. Thank you, deck. Very cool. Alright, and we're dead. That's really disappointing. Still have the Thrashing Brontodon, which technically can get rid of that, but I think my opponent just draws a couple of cards here and the game ends. Literally or actually. I can't disrupt the Chain of Smog combo next turn. I mean, I'll do this, but not great. My opponent can just use Sylvan Library to find a new land and combo me off. Or Verdant Catacombs, try to waste. I don't think so. They might not have more than 2 basics. My opponent might want to fetch because of Sylvan Library, but they might not have another basic, so they get wastelanded. That's sort of interesting. Alright. Yeah, am I dead? Like they found a Sedgemoor Witch. Could be a Buried Alive, I guess. Abundant Harvest, sure. Could have considered wastelanding in response there, but didn't grudge. For Relic? Opponent has come back a lot of life. Similar to like how Sylvan Library is good with Uro. Value. Questing Beast. Like there is value to other creatures other than Questing Beast, but Questing Beast just kills in 2 turns and makes library worse. Yep. Now I have Wasteland versus Rishadenport to think about. I believe I will just be Wastelanding. Can't take my opponent off of a color. Take them off of black or red. I don't think either one of those things super matters. I guess red is, well, if I Wasteland this does take them off of red. I don't think green matters a lot. Alright, see if I get Chain of Smogged. If I was going to get Phoenixed, I probably would have gotten Phoenixed last turn. Cool. Alright, let's try to squeeze in a round of magic before I have to go to work. My opening hand is kind of unexciting in many ways. This Wasteland Ramunap Excavator is kind of the most exciting thing about the hand. The Fauna Shaman is kind of unlikely to be good, because I'm going to want to play out all of these cards. Wasteland Noble. Wasteland Noble. See if I can get the free one versus Delver. Force of Negation, not particularly good against me. Oh, yeah, my opponent doesn't have another land. That's great. Let's try to set up for Ramunap Wasteland next turn. Nice, nice. Let's take this value while I can. See if my opponent wants to Force of Negation this. Oh, they don't. And I can just grab a Shifting Ceratops for next turn. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that. All right. Yep, feel pretty confident that we're going to get this round in before work safely. What do I want versus Delver? I think I want Choke on the draw. I think I just want 6 removal spells. Let's go No to Oof and Manglehorn. probably no to this 3/4 as well. Trim 2-ish, 3-ish of those. Could also keep a Once Upon a Time and get rid of a Fauna Shaman. But I do have like random life gain cards that would be totally fine to tutor up in a lot of situations. I also don't know if I want to trim another creature. I want to keep my creature count high-ish. I'll talk about this in the debrief, but I just don't like the way that this deck is put together in terms of numbers. Yep. It tastes good. I have double vial. I have a wasteland. Don't Delver, please. Or please, Delver. Delver off basic as well is a little rough. Find these Ether Vial Noble Hierarch decks to be pretty awkward because a lot of times you want to lead on Noble Hierarch to be able to do the cool thing on turn 2. By the cool thing, I mean anything that costs 3 mana. And like Vial is a card you want to play out on turn 1 almost 100% of the time because you get the mana advantage out of it by having it in play for a very long time. Like by not playing out the Noble Hierarch, my Green Sun becomes worse and so on and so forth. Jam? Kind of just want to jam this so I have the possibility of removing Delver in turn cycle. It would eat it to days, which is not great. But otherwise, I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to cast this Jitte. The Delver wasn't already in play. I think I could play this slower. I'm not sure that I can afford to play it slower than this here. That's fine. Yeah. Green Sun plus Ether Vial combo? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Cast a Green Sun for up to X equals 3. Turn cycle. I have a Scrub Ranger at 2 that's kind of interesting. Ah, that's what my opponent was thinking about. Sure. The rest of this turn kind of sucks now. Ooze isn't great currently. I might just need to get a Scrib Ranger and hold the board here. Pro blue. Pro blue. Mutagenic growth. Right. That's very odd timing. don't understand why they did not do that in their main phase. Because presuming they're not just a mono blue deck, there's things like Lightning Bolt they can hit while making their land drop. Fuel. I feel pretty dead. I'm not actually dead, but yeah. What if we brainstormed in our main phase and had 3 more damage in? Alright, moving on. Lana Shaman and Once Upon a Time are probably my weakest links here. Can consider Choke on the play. I don't know that it's actually great. I think I'll just run this back, but I'm not 100% sure that that's correct. So this is another one of those hands where I can play an Ether Vial and put in a Dryad Arbor and get a decent mana advantage. But this is a hand where if my Vial gets forced, this hand is god awful. I think I need to mulligan this one for something more stable. This'll do, I'll be keeping. I think the Questing Beast just goes back as the 4-drop. Like, here's the awkwardness of playing Ether Vial in this sort of deck, right? Like, in a vacuum, getting mana acceleration versus Delver is awesome. It makes them Lightning Bolt rather than play a Delver on one if they have both. But I really just need to play the Vial here because of the cumulative advantage that it applies. Not Delver would be cool. That's over. I think it's correct to do this. Opponent also like really should not be F6'd, but we'll take that. Blazing Volley happens to be just shit insane versus me right now, but my opponent might just trade it for a 1/1. We'll see. Please do, please do, please do. Right. Well, my file's kind of shit now. Need to keep ticking it up. Put in Hex Drinker, Vial tick up, 2 mana into Hex Drinker, Grip Ranger, Bounce Forest, untap Dryad Arbor, 3rd into Hex Drinker. A Lightning Bolt kind of screws me. Blazing Volley, though. Please. I don't really care about the Blazing Volley getting a 2-for-1 if I get this Hex Drinker leveled up here. Like my opponent has Submerge. I need to fetch. So that. Oh, nope, it's a Lightning Bolt. Sure. I'll see if Master of the Wild Hunt can take this game out on its own. Blazing Volley is just super unfortunate here. I guess I can bounce my Dryad Arbor and try to avoid this situation. The 2-for-1, that is. Yeah, maybe this isn't as bad as it looks at first glance. Oh, it's as bad as it looks. It's probably worse than it looks. That's devastating. All right. Cool. Cool. If I just bounce it so I actually get a fresh draw, probably do. I can't, like, continue to build my mana because of the Blazing Volley that I know about. All right. Play Dryad Arbor this turn, probably. I just need the 4th mana next turn. Pretty susceptible to things like Daze here. Daze, Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Submerge. All those sorts of things are just going to be very good against me. Yeah, I think I'm just dead. 100% just dead if the Delver flips. Yep. Okay. And we're done. And I believe we're 0-4, so I think we're done with this. Yeah. So from when I got this donation, I did not expect this league to go well. I think this deck has fundamental design issues. What do I mean by that? So this is a deck that is playing a whole bunch of things in the Ether Vial deck that don't work well with Ether Vial. All right. So there's these 8 cards that can't be put in by Ether Vial, even though these are kind of supposed to be counting as creature slots. And the reason you play these is so that you can have some selection in your green deck, which is something you normally don't get to do as a mono green deck. But the ability to select off of these cards is coming at the price of consistency, and consistency is key in Legacy. That's why so many decks start out with a minimum of 8 cantrips, your 4 Unders and your 4 Brainstorms. And it's very common to see Preordain or Abundant Harvest or Expressive Iteration or something else that goes and gives you additional selection or card draw or filtering that. And the way this deck is built, you're supposed to have all these fringe things for the right scenario, but like, do you actually have the green sun at the right time to tutor up your bullet, or like, you just draw a Thrashing Brontodon? And I think the second thing is what happened most of the time throughout this league. This deck has 24 lands, but not nearly as many mana sinks as something like Death and Taxes does. And so the games where I flooded out just felt abysmal, and there was so little that I could do with my mana. Like, it was cool every time I had Tireless Tracker, but I think if you want to try something like this, you need to give up on the like 99 toolbox creature aspect of it and instead play many copies of the things that you consistently want to have. Like, I want to have Tireless Tracker basically literally every game. And honestly, that's one of the few creatures that I really want to draw every game from this deck, which might be saying something else about the design of the deck. Like, these creatures might not be good enough to create a monocolored deck that's built like this. There's tension between wanting to play Noble Hierarch or out early to accelerate and to get the Ether Vial into play so you can get the value off of this. The Vial curve is kind of wonky with this deck, so there's a lot of times where you might tick something up to 4 to put one of these in, and then you drawing 3s for the rest of the game. I think this deck sets you up for a lot of feel-bad situations. You know, we mulliganed multiple hands because, like, Dryad Arbor was our only green colored source of mana, or Gaia's Cradle wouldn't have been turned on early. I just don't think this deck design has any degree of consistency, despite these 8 cards trying to add that consistency. And I also don't know that you have time to be hardcasting Once Upon a Time. That was something that I boarded out in basically every round, because in an Ether Vial deck, I feel like if your creature count drops to 20, that's where you really start to like feel that your vials aren't as good. And if you're a vial deck and your vials don't feel good, you're probably doing something wrong. And that's what led me to cutting Once Upon a Time most of the time. Because if we want to board 6 or 7 cards, like we did in a handful of those matchups, if we cut creatures rather than these, then our vials feel terrible. As far as the sideboard goes, like going into the league, we knew we'd be bad against combo, that we just like didn't have the tools to beat them with the way the deck is constructed. And I also didn't really feel like we had the tools to beat, well, much of anything. Against sweepers, like the Blazing Volley and the Terminus, the deck felt weak. Against combo, I felt like I had no game, and I knew that going in. Against Delver, I don't have game 1 removal, and so I have to rely on just killing them quicker, or like something like a Scrib Ranger just standing in the way of a Delver for a while until I can resolve bigger stuff. And it just feels like I didn't have a plan, and decks without a good plan lose. So this one gets the thumbs down from me. I don't think this idea is quite there. A very similar version of this did 5.0 a while back, um, but I don't think this is a path particularly worth pursuing for the brewers out there. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed despite the fact that I got absolutely bullied. I hope you have a great rest of the day and consider throwing me a like or a comment on your way out. See ya.